Hi, I'm Elizabeth from Houston Harp Music, and today I'm going to show you how to change a gut string on a pedal harp. This same process will apply if you're changing one of the larger, longer gut strings on a large lever harp as well. But this is specifically for strings that are very thick. So if you're changing a thin string, you want to find my video showing you how to change a nylon string. So these are the large, long, thick strings. Today I'm going to be changing a string on this pedal harp. I'm going to change this F here, which is in the fourth octave F. So it's fairly thick. Fourth and fifth octave strings can be a little challenging to tie the knot because the strings are so thick and hard to manipulate. So it's a little bit different process from this changing a string in an upper register. So this one is actually a nylon string, and it shouldn't be. It should only have gut down here because the rest of this octave is strung with gut. So we're going to take that nylon string off and replace it with a gut string. So the first thing you're going to do is loosen up the string. Make sure you're on the correct string. Don't accidentally be loosening up one of the neighboring strings. So I'm watching to make sure, and yes, sure enough, the correct one is moving. This particular harp has not been changed in a long time, so a lot of the pins are tight. If you're taking good, regular care of your harp, you won't have to deal with that. So I'm loosening it up, and this string really was not well done, so I'm having to loosen it a lot. All right, I've got it pretty loose now. At this point, I don't have to keep turning and turning. I can just pull it off like that. I want to end with the hole in the tuning pin vertical, straight up and down, and then I can pull it out. It'll also be easier to insert my new string. Because this end is so wound up, I'm going to use my wire cutters, just generic wire cutters, and cut somewhere in the middle of the string, doesn't really matter where. It just gives me a nice straight end that I can pull out the sound hole rather than having to pull this mess out there. A little bit easier that way. All right. Now I'm going to stick my hand in the back of the harp and feed this down through and pull it right out of the back of the harp. And there we go. So here you can see a little bit of the knot that was tied previously, and that's essentially the knot that we're going to be creating as well. Although this one was nylon, ours is gut. It's going to be a little trickier, but it's going to be the same basic idea. There's going to be a loop coming out and an end. Before I go ahead and put that on, because this harp is pretty old and has sat unused for many years, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that there's no string and just take a nice, soft, non-abrasive cloth and kind of wipe it down, get the dust off all the tops of these little pieces, get my harp nice and shiny and new looking again. You can do it with the strings on, but it's just a lot easier with the strings off, so why not? And I'm going to go ahead and rub it down here where the string goes into the sound hole, get it nice and clean. All right, now I'm going to take my new string. Make sure that you are using the correct string. I'm putting on a Premier harp string right now. That's what I have strung this harp with, and you want to be consistent within the same harp on what you're stringing it with. So this is a fourth octave F. I'm making sure that I have the correct one. Do not just grab a string. Make sure it's the right string for that harp, and that's that octave. Okay? I'm going to take the end and I'm going to feed it down through the sound hole. Don't tie your knot first. If you do, then you have to feed it up, and it's much harder to do that. So go ahead and feed the end down through the hole. Reach in with your other hand to grab it and pull it through. Don't pull it too much because you could accidentally pull it all the way through, but the string's fairly long, so you should be able to get quite a good end here to work with. So here we have the end of our string. I'm only going to be able to get one use out of the string. It's not long enough to be able to string this twice, so I don't really have to worry about how much and trying to use as little as possible. I can use up as much of the end as I want. So first I'm going to give myself lots of room, several inches in, and I'm just going to bend it. Now the string's very thick, so you really have to push to bend it. And I actually like to kind of make a circle and another circle and just get a lot of that string bent up. So basically I'm making it more malleable. So this whole section I have gotten it started with the bending so that it'll be more willing when I start actually making my knot. All right, So the first thing you're going to do, once you have that done, is take the end and stick it in through. So basically I just made a knot. I just helped myself along by getting it started. So make your knot. I've got maybe 2 inches hanging off the end. And then, this is the hard part, pull it as tight as you can. As tight as you can possibly pull it. All right, that's about as good as I can do. So I've got kind of a small hole there, still big enough to thread something through, but it's not huge. If you try to do it with the knot still huge, it may come undone. So I've got it as small as I can, and I still have 2 or 3 inches hanging out. I'm going to take this end and I'm going to feed it back through the same part that it's sticking out. And then I want to pinch it down such that I have approximately the same amount of space on both sides. In this case, I've got maybe 1 inch on both sides. So there we go. We've got the tail hanging out about 1 inch and the loop part about 1 inch, so they're even. I like it to be even so that it's not likely to come undone one way or the other. And if we look at our old knot, it should be about the same. So fairly similar there. All right, now that we have our knot done, we're going to pull it through. Pretty much, I'm not pulling really hard, but it's all the way up. Okay, now I'm gonna feed it up through the tuning pin. Likes to jump out. Okay, so I've got it fed through. I'm going to take the end and kind of tuck it under. So all I've done is fed it through and tucked it under. It's not tight or anything yet. Now comes the time where you're going to give it a little help. I'm going to make sure that the string is going down in the correct place, which means to the left of the bridge pin, but in between my pedal discs. If this was a lever harp, you would want it to be on the correct side of the lever, which depending on what kind of lever you have, may be the left or the right or the middle. So look at the other ones next to it to see how it should be. Okay, I've got it in the right spot. I have it tucked around. I'm going to kind of help it a little bit. And my left hand is going to now pull this tight while my right hand begins to tune it up. So let me grab my tuner, making sure I'm on the correct string, not accidentally turning a different one. And I'm pulling this tight as I begin to tune it. I have now trapped my tail by doing the new part of the string over it. It's holding it, it's not going to go anywhere. As I continue to turn, I'm going to use my left hand to kind of push it a little bit to make sure that it starts winding inward. You never ever want your strings to wind outward, always inward. So I'm pushing it so that it's on the right side of this end of the string. And just giving it a little bit of turn. It's starting to get nice and tight. You may hear some noise at the bottom. That's the knot adjusting and tightening, and that's okay. Don't be alarmed. All right. I'm just using the string below it to get it roughly in the general area. Am I an entire octave flat, or am I pretty close? Okay, it's tuned to about what the string below it is. So now I want to tune it to the actual note that it's going to be. Before I do that, I'm going to double check my knot. I want to make sure that my knot is turned such that it will not touch the other knots in the harp. So you remember our knot it's kind of vertical. So it's got a tail hanging out one end and the loop hanging out the other end. If your knot is in there horizontal, like this, it's likely going to touch the knots of the other strings. That can cause buzzing, and it's very frustrating. So try to make sure that your knot is horizontal. If you look up in the sound hole and it's like this, just turn it. It should turn. You might have to pull on it, nudge it. Doesn't matter which way, this way, or this way, doesn't matter. But you want to turn it so that it is horizontal and not touching not even close to touching the knot of the one below it or above it. So do that now before we finish tightening this up. Okay, I like to touch the bottom to give myself a reference for where I'm looking, and a little adjusting. All right, my knot is great. Okay, now it's time to grab your tuner. I like to tune from my phone, from an app, but you can also use a regular tuner, whatever you like. And it's time to tune it up. This is an F, and this is a pedal harp. So I actually want to tune it to E, so that when I put my F pedal down to natural, it will be an F natural. I'm on a C sharp right now, so I'm going to tune it up. And there's my E. And it's going to continue to need tuning because it's stretching out, and so it's going to keep getting flatter and flatter and flatter. So you'll have to keep retuning it probably several times right now, and then over time come back multiple times the same day to retune it, and the next day tune it several times, the next day several times, as often as you can. And then if you tune it a lot, after about a week you should be good and stable. If you're only tuning it like once a day, it's going to take you quite a while to get it to hold. So tune it as often as you can right at the beginning, and then it'll start to hold tune. We're already down to a D sharp. There we go. All right, so my knot is good, my string is good, it's tuned up, I've double checked I'm on the correct spices here, it's winding in, everything looks great. So now it's time for me to cut off the end of the string. Now I like to make sure that on these strings, I want to have at least 2 times around. If you only have 1 time wrapped around, it might not be enough to hold the end, and it could come undone. If you have too many times going around, 4 or 5, you're risking that it'll wind all the way to touching the neck of the harp, and you don't want that. It puts the string at a bad angle with the bridge pin, and it also just causes problems with if it gets all the way there, and then you start tuning up on top of yourself and getting layers, it's not good. So if you notice that your string only has 1 round, you need to undo it before you cut it and give it a little bit more space and redo it. If you notice that it's wound and wound and wound and you had to go around like 5 times, again, undo it, tighten it a little bit, and redo it. This is the time to do that, not after you've cut it. After you've cut it, you're done. So mine looks good. It's got about 2.5, kind of 3 rounds. Remember, over the life of the string, you're going to be continuing to stretch it out and tuning it more and more. So over the life of the string, it may get 4 times around, something like that. All right, I'm going to use the part of the wire cutters that's flush with the edge, because I want to cut it as close as I can. Don't leave a tail hanging off. It's going to get caught on things. It doesn't look nice. Cut it as close as you can once you're sure that it's going to stay. You're not going to have to redo it. And there you go. This is not long enough to keep and do anything with. Sometimes I'll cut up to save for extra little ends, little pieces like that you can use as stabilizers to hold these higher strings, which if you need to change a higher string, you can watch my video on how to do that. Other than that, just throw away the end. Don't forget to tune up your string multiple times. It's going to need a lot of tuning before it holds, but it's going to sound really great. So best of luck to you. Enjoy your music.